historically in training camp, the defense is always a little bit ahead of the offense. Are you happy with the way your guys have just kind of stepped in from last year and carried it over here in early in camp?
We've got a really good group, and there's still a long way to go for them to be back to what even close to what we were a year ago, and that's not saying anything bad. It's just you're always looking for more. You're always looking for that next step, and they're working hard. They're working their tails off, and there's the timing and efficiency at which we play in our coverages and all that stuff where we can get a lot better. But I trust the group and the fact that they put in the work. They're working their tails off. They're studying, and they're trying to find ways to get better every day. So we're not there yet, but they're moving in the right direction, and the deliberateness at which they're working is really good. So that part I'm pleased with, but not expecting them to be quite there yet. If I'm making, not that I'm not happy with them, but it's hopefully I'm making sense.
Robert, you guys practiced today without Dee Ford and Nick Bosa, but it seemed like you had enough playmakers in the secondary and at linebacker. Was there a specific play that jumped out at you that you appreciated, whether it was maybe Quan's finish at the end or maybe Jimmy Ward cutting over and helping out Kello?
Those are big-time strain plays. Quan, linebacker at heart, so it's that play he made was unbelievable. But Jimmy and Kello on that deep corner route, that play was fantastic. But the strain for them to get to those points, Kyle and his offense, they do so much to strain you in so many different ways. And on any specific down, there's going to be a particular player that's strained. And to see those guys fight through that and still win on the down when they're being attacked by an offense of Kyle's caliber, it's those two plays clearly stick out. Some of the stuff that goes unnoticed up front, it's Saleh and the way he's been working. It's that stuff stands out to me too. But overall, I just thought the guys fought, and there's a lot of really good plays. Got to go back to the tape and watch it all. But those two plays you mentioned in particular were awesome.
Hey, Robert, what have you seen so far from Javon Kinlaw? He's had a couple more practices. Also, Chris Kasarik has kind of said that he kind of preaches to his guys the most important group on the field is a defensive line. Kind of your perspective on his mentality there.
We're all encompassing, but they are we go as they go, and it's when they're humming, we can play a lot tighter and a lot faster in the back end. If it's not working, then you play a little bit looser and you give up leaky yardage. But as far as Javon, that's the old adage of rush and coverage. The faster the rush gets there, the tighter the coverage can be, and so you play off one another. And there's sometimes where that coverage is locked down, and it gives the D-line just that extra hitch to get home. And there's times where D-line's not giving that quarterback the extra hitch. So it goes hand in hand. But to answer your question on Javon, he's getting his feet under him. I think he's trying to find his way. I think our offense is a SOB to go against on a day in and day out basis with how fast and how physical they are. And I think it is a shock to a rookie defensive lineman when they come in here and, he's going against guys like Lincoln Tomlinson, and he's got Trent Williams trying to reach him on the backside, and he's just got all this stuff happening to him. But and McGlinchey and just all of them, it's tough. And but he's coming along every day. He's made a small improvement every single day. So the focus for him is just continue to get better and hit the ground running come week one.
Robert, with Javon, when you had a guy who's probably been stronger than everyone he's gone against his whole life to go up against NFL linemen, what is that adjustment like, and how is he going about learning maybe to use more than his strength to deal with these guys?
Yeah, it's a technique thing, where you grow up your whole life and you can just muscle and bully people your entire life, and all of a sudden you get into the league where they're just like you, and it's where technique, fundamentals, strain, tenacity, all of it comes all into fruition, and the intangibles are what wins football games for these professionals. We always talk about the difference between player A and player B it's minuscule. It's the intangibles that make the difference: the strain, the mindset, the physicality, the study habits, the understanding what teams are doing to you. All those little intangibles that aren't glaring on tape are what makes separate players from one another. And as a rookie, he's trying to figure all that stuff and fully capable. But it's the intangibles that he's got to work on in terms of just learning how to play football from a fundamental standpoint where he can use that big body to just create even more power and leverage.
Hey, Robert, this is Chris Peterman. Just given the unique circumstances of this training camp and the fact that practices, you have fewer practices to work with. I know you guys work closely with the training staff to determine workloads for guys, but you as a coach, how difficult is it? Is there any part of you that wants to push back on the training staff and say, hey, these guys need reps, or what's that internal balance that you try to find in terms of getting guys the reps they need versus making sure they're fresh for September 13th?
You know what? I'm going to be very honest. It's there is a fine balance, and I think Kyle and those guys work so good together, and I really mean it. They do. I'm a huge fan of the weight room. In terms of, I just think the player and their physical ability, their availability, the stamina, all those different things that you can take for granted. We get so caught up on scheme, but scheme's nothing if they're not available and at their strongest. So I'm a full believer in what they're doing. I'm a full believer in that getting the players to 100% or to a certain level that they believe, or practicing them to a certain level that they believe will get them to peak condition come week one. And so, yeah, you'd love for them to get more reps, but you trust between the way Kyle and the performance staff work together to create reps and workload, that there's a fantastic balance. And by week one, we all got to strain a little bit more from a coaching standpoint with the tapes we create to teach. And the players got to strain a little bit more to make sure they're taking care of their bodies and studying and doing all those different things. So it's, so I'm, to answer your question, I believe so. I believe so fully in what we do here that I believe that it's, no matter which way, it's good. So.
Hey, Robert, we were talking to Solomon yesterday, and he said multiple times how excited he was to be, probably mostly inside. He said that's where he excelled in college. That's where he feels most comfortable. So, of course, a lot of fans will be like, well, how come he hasn't been doing that, exclusively the last 3 years? I understand there's a lot that goes into that. Could you explain maybe the challenges of getting him inside over the course of his career, and perhaps why it might be easier for him to be in there this year?
No, absolutely. That's a great question, by the way. For Saleh, when drafting him when we first got here, there was a lack. I shouldn't say a lack of edge talent, but when you're trying to get your best players on the football field in any capacity possible, and so you have Buck on the inside, you had Eric moved outside but got some inside work, you had Earl Mitchell early, so you had inside guys, but there was just trying to get Saleh on the football field. There were on the outside was the best place that we could put them in terms of maximizing the men we had in that room. Year two, same thing. Just we didn't quite take just the evolution in the process of trying to bring in the players to make all this stuff work with everything. And then last year, Coach and John just a phenomenal job. We get D forward, we get Bosa, and we have a chance to play Saleh inside more. So in the first half of the year, he played a lot on the inside. But then injuries happen. Ronnie Blair goes down. D Ford goes down for the year. We lose a few more players, and so Saleh's one of our best players. We got to get him on the football field somehow, and the best spot is outside. So it's been our intent to try to keep him inside as much as possible, but he's such a talented football player that sometimes it's, well, shoot, we got to get him on the field. But with what we have now, with being able to bring in a Kerry Hyder, we have Ronnie coming back from PUP, you've got D Ford, you've got Bosa, you have Eric, who can play outside too. We're doing everything we can to make sure that Saleh stays inside at all costs. And when he is in there, if you look at his tape from a year ago, when he's inside and solely inside, I mean, he's a very, very effective football player. Made a lot of plays for us last year inside, and so our intent is to try to keep him in there. That's because you're right. That's where he excels the most, and hopefully by the product, just by the fact that we have more defensive ends to withstand injury, where it takes 2, 3, 4 injuries before Saleh ever has to step out there. We have a chance to keep him inside for the entire season. So Hopefully, I answered the question, but that's been the intent every year.
We got two more for Coach.
Hi, Robert. It's David Lombardi. Yesterday, Kyle said, referring to Sherm's 2 interceptions in 2 days, as he, just sees the quarterback's eyes and really comes out of nowhere. I'm wondering, is that a good example? People often talk about Sherm being in his 10th year, but not slowing down because he has such a strong cerebral aspect of the game. I'm wondering if you consider, plays like that to be a good example of that. And, kind of on a related note, you saw Sherm earlier in his career in Seattle. Has that aspect of his game, the ability to just kind of pounce out of nowhere, is that better now after 10 years in the NFL?
Sherm's that's always been his game. He's always been mind over athleticism. Obviously, when he was a young man, he could get himself out of trouble that he may put himself in a lot easier. But he understands stems, he understands scheme, he understands what offenses are trying to do to you. I mean, we sat after meetings today, we sat and talked, just he and I, for about 30 minutes on a particular concept and the way we're playing things. And I know he can wait, but he's going to be a coach one day, and he's going to be phenomenal. He is so far ahead of the game. It'd be the equivalent of all these older quarterbacks, Drew Brees, Peyton Manning back in the day, Tom Brady, who, they're not as gifted as they were, yet not as, their minds are playing the game. They're playing a completely different game than everybody else. And that's Sherm out at corner. He's just playing a different game than everybody else. And you trust that his eyes are right. And, you talk about the play he made yesterday. You trust that he's actually going to be where he's supposed to be. But because he saw the play developed, he saw the quarterback's eyes, he saw what he saw, he could make a play that probably wasn't designed for him to make. And those are things that just make him special. He knows exactly how to protect the defense. And so that's why Sherm is one of those corners who's always been able to go get the ball his entire career, and his mind is what has always helped him. But yeah, as he's gotten older, his understanding of scheme and what's being asked of him has just increased.
Robert, D and Nick didn't participate in full team drills today. I'm wondering, just irrespective of that, what differences you've noticed from each of them in terms of the way they look physically, and how maybe that's translated to what they've been able to do. And I guess for D specifically, just given the fact that he's coming off that knee surgery.
Yeah, D looks like he's in great shape. He looks his lower half is a lot thicker and more powerful, it seems like, than a year ago. He looks really good. He looks explosive out there. Nick, knock on wood, man, he's clearly put in the work over this offseason. And, just look at him. He's yoked, leaner, faster. But having those two guys, they've had you can tell that they've had a really good offseason. They've come in prepared. And now it's just a matter of getting them to week 1 so they can go do what they do best.
All right. Thank you, Coach.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, everybody. How we doing?
Doing well, thanks.
Good.
Hey, I know how tight knit you guys are as a unit. So just how difficult was it to see Ross get injured, and what have you seen from Ross Reynolds the last year and a half?
Well, first, yeah, it's obviously extremely tough seeing something happening like that to one of your brothers and one of your teammates, especially in our own unit. Ross is a guy that comes into work every single day and battles his ass off for us. He does everything we ask him to do, whether it's playing both guard positions. He's done a lot at center this camp. He's a very versatile football player, and he's had some success this camp so far, and I'm proud of the work that he's put in. Unfortunate bounce today with getting hit in the leg and stuff like that, but hopefully it's not as bad as it looked, and we can say our prayers for Ross today on the Lord's Day, and hopefully it all turns out okay, and then we'll get him hopefully back as fast as we can. But it's obviously very, very tough to see when one of our favorite guys like that goes down.
Hey, Mike, it's been kind of interesting to watch you go versus D Ford and the other side, Trent Williams and Nick Bosa kind of going against each other. Can you talk about what it's like and how much you've learned from those kind of matchups?
Well, I think it's been hammered home this whole camp. I think it's been one of the favorite storylines for everybody outside of this building is what's going on the edges right now, and it's exciting. It was my goal to make sure that I came back this season and was going to give them a little bit more of a run for their money than I did last year, and I hope that they can feel that, and I hope that they can understand that. But it's been cool. It's been really cool. It's invaluable to get the work that we're getting, and both from Nick, from D, and from Eric and Kerry when they step in, and the other guys that are on the edges. We are very, very fortunate because we get to play against the best in the world each and every day at practice. And it's been nice. It's been nice to mix it up and get those different rushes from Nick on my side a couple days ago, and obviously the problems that D presents, and watching Trent and those guys battle is cool. Is just as fun as going up against them. I get a front row seat to watch the best in the world go at it every single day, and it's cool. I really can't explain it other than that. It's just really it's how rare it is of what we have here in this building to have, what I like to think is one of the top edges on the offensive side of the ball with Trent and I, and then obviously with Nick and D. There's been a great battle there all camp, and hopefully we'll continue to get going, and the old iron sharpens iron that everybody likes to say around here, and that's what's going on.
Hey, Mike, following up on that with D specifically, how much better is he this year, just coming off of the surgery and healthier? And have you noticed a difference in what he's bringing to the table maybe as opposed to last year at this time?
Well, I think he's because training camp last year and OTAs last year, he kind of had this pop that he has now. It was throughout the year that it kind of he got a little more banged up as the year went on. So he feels that way again. I think it's more of that. He's got that shot out of a cannon type of get off the line of scrimmage, which really presents problems for offensive tackles and makes you get onto your heels a little bit. But it's so valuable to see that because of how rare his speed and his get off and his ability to set the edge and then turn on the edge. He's got that back, which has been cool to see and cool to feel and cool to battle against. He's got an extremely valuable skill set that his speed kind of unlocks the rest of the pass rush. And I think Saleh can talk about that more in depth. But having a guy with that kind of get off and that can create that kind of spacing for the other 3 or 4 or 5 guys that they have rushing is a huge part of what we do on defense. And the success that we had on third downs, especially if it gets to 3rd and +5, it's really hard to keep those guys off the quarterback. And it's an extremely rare thing that we have here.
Hey, Mike, I'm wondering, it looks like you've lost a little bit of weight. I'm wondering if that's true, and what was the motivation behind it, how you went about doing it, and also what your opinion is on the nickname, the Big Slim.
I didn't actually really lose that much weight. I think maybe like five-ish pounds. I'm still sitting at 295, 300, which is what I've played at almost my whole time here. I was a little heavier my rookie year coming out of the inside zone and gap scheme at Notre Dame. But it was great. I took a lot of pride this offseason. There wasn't really much else to do other than train and do things the right way. And so I went back to the drawing board and got back to the basics of things that are going to keep me strong, keep me healthy, and keep me more functional as an athlete. And I think Dustin Perry and I have an extremely great relationship. He's one of the best people in our organization. And the work that we did for from the Super Bowl on moving forward this year has really benefited me, and I think put me in a new spot for where I can go with my career, which is exciting. And Sherm gets to call me Richard Sherman can call me whatever the hell he wants, man. He's earned that right. The Big Slim's a cool nickname. It maybe makes me sound like I got an album coming out or something like that, but I guess it's a compliment in a way. So I appreciate it.
Hey, Mike, it's David Lombardi. It seems that every training camp has a point where it kind of comes to the dog days. Like Kyle was talking about it yesterday, where guys, especially rookies, hit a little bit of a wall. They get really tired. I guess occasionally you might even see a couple injuries, and you just have to fight through it. I'm wondering if you feel that you guys have reached that real tough part of training camp right now, and how that's changed for you from your rookie year to now, if you can kind of describe how the acclimatization period has evolved for you as you've grown, more accustomed to the league.
Well, yeah, I think there's always that point in camp that you get to where things start getting a lot harder. The practice scripts are ramped up higher. Players are starting to come into their own, and the rust is off, and it's full-blown live battles out there, especially up front, because as much as you don't tackle and as you don't wrap up and finish like in a scrimmage or in a preseason game, you can't really get around it when you're blocking and playing on the defensive line. So for us, it's football every single day, and it's a game every single day. And I think this block and then the next block, I think, are the last two that we really have until we're starting to get in more to game prep. But yeah, it's an extremely hard process, and I think it's even made more difficult this year because of the long layover that we had, from the Super Bowl and not having OTAs and stuff like that. So guys had to be forced to get their legs underneath them just a little bit faster this year because they weren't coming off the whole spring of working on it and stuff like that. And for the rookies, I thank God I'm not a rookie this year, because as hard as it was as a rookie, when you had a whole spring and summer to prepare, it's extremely difficult. And my hat goes off to the guys that we have on this team, guys like Javon and Brandon that have stepped in, and Colton McKivitz, who's done a great job for us up front. It's an impressive thing because they've literally only seen live action for 3 weeks. And so to get the feel of that speed and the feel of the snap second decision making that has to take place in this league, it makes your head spin. And for those guys to kind of settle in here, I think we've only really had, somewhere between 8 and 10, real football practices, and those guys have come along a long way. And I think this year for me, everything's a lot slowed down. I can focus on more of how to do things instead of what I'm doing, and just executing the blocks the best as I can.
Hey, Mike, it's Cam. Can you maybe just explain the tone or the theme of what Coach Shanahan had to say as he huddled all you guys up after practice?
I think he just was making sure. It kind of goes off of that last question. We're getting to that dog day point in camp where guys are getting tired, guys are getting sore, things are starting to slip. Guys are, but Kyle was just kind of harping on the attention to detail of everything. That there's certain things that you can't let slip through the cracks. You got to stay on your routines. You got to stay on your sleep schedules. You got to stay on your workout schedules. You can't cut corners, and you can't cut corners in this league if you want to be successful. And I think that was really the message that he was trying to portray to us today, and it certainly hit home. There was a couple sloppy things that happened at practice today, both on offensive and defensive side of the ball, and things that we need to clean up that we can't have happen once the live bullets start flying in September.
Mike, you noted that there's only been 8 to 10 practices, but as far as Colton McKivitz, you're obviously paying a lot of attention to your fellow blockers in one-on-ones. Do you see progress from him from when practice started and he started doing that drill? It seems like, at least from our perspective, he's gotten incrementally better at it as time has gone on?
I think so, absolutely. I think Colton's done a great job. One thing that Colton's really, really good at is being coachable, and he's kind of been a sponge in these last 2 weeks. That, all right, he's starting to get a feel for it and getting a feel for it at a rapid pace, which is pretty cool. He's been thrown into a lot of different situations. He's played center, he's played both guards, and he's even come in at a spell at tackle a time or two. And that experience that he's getting is going to be huge for him in his development moving forward. But it's also, like you said, the results are kind of coming a lot faster than they normally would for an O-lineman at this time, and that's impressive. The kid's a football player. He can figure it out, and he's a hard, competitive athlete that really wants to be good at football, which is everything that you want out of a young guy, especially in the O-line room. And he's been a blessing to our O-line room. He's been a great sport as being the only rookie that we have, which is always a tough deal. But we're proud of Colton and the things that he's been able to accomplish in such a short period of time.
Hey, Mike. Kendrick Bourne and Trent Williams yesterday spoke about Kyle showing y'all film from the Super Bowl and how there was kind of this level of cringing that happened. Can you give us your assessment on what that feeling was like in the room?
Yeah, I think I'm not entirely sure, but that might have been the first time that we were all together and saw that tape. We obviously all watched it on our own, and you have to watch it to get your process of moving on, right? But I think that I read somewhere on Twitter or something that you could feel the tension in the room when those clips came on, and I think that's 100% accurate. When I don't love it. I hate it when those clips come on. I hate it when those clips, when you have to go back to those things to relive those moments. And yeah, I think that there was a certain feel and it's like a hot air that goes into the room when you're just like sitting there and everybody kind of sits up a little bit more. Everybody locks onto the screen a little bit more, and we talk through those things. And I think it was casual, but I truly do believe in the last 7 months that's the first time that we've ever watched it together as a team. And it sucks. Watching that game never feels good. No matter how well you think you played as an individual, no matter how well you think you played in crucial moments, or what play the one or two plays that you remember that stick out that you could have done a little bit better, they hurt. Football is a game that gives you a lot of scars, and but it's a matter of how do you come back and use those scars to learn, to grow, and then ultimately never let them happen again. And I think that's the message that this team has felt since the night of February 2nd or whenever the game was. And I'm excited because that feeling is still there. It's not like, I think it's a good thing that it bothers people when that still comes on, because it's just that much more of a driving factor to get back there and then ultimately finish the job.
All right, thanks, folks. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, guys.
How y'all doing? Can you hear me?
Hey, Quan, Jake Hutchinson. It seemed like maybe there was a little lack of energy in the first half of practice, but at the end, you had like this string of plays and you seemed pretty hyped about it. Can you just take us through that end of practice?
Man, I just tapped into a whole nother gear. I was just trying to get a spark for my team and for the defense just to make a play so we can just keep going, and stacking them. So that's all I was trying to do.
Quan, how much time have you put in through the years to uh, improve and just really fine tune your ability to cover, whether it's wide receivers in the case of Kendrick Bourne or backs out of the backfield? What have you done to really amplify that game, that part of your game?
I just been working, over the off season. I got with a couple old teammates. I just been picking their brains and seeing how they've been working, and I just put it to my game. I always can learn. Been learning from Miko too, so he been helping me a lot. And I'm just transferring it to the field now, and I'm just ready to get it going.
Quan, how much is that you're just so much healthier now? I think a year ago you were coming off that ACL, and we didn't know whether you were capable of making such a play downfield, and you did in a couple of those early games. But how much more confident are you in your body right now, and just the familiarity of the defense?
Oh yeah, I feel legendary right now, man. I'm just happy. I'm ready to go. It's my second year under the defense. It's starting to get easier. I'm starting to pick stuff up a lot faster. Especially at my keys and stuff. So I'm starting to read stuff faster. So I'm just ready to go when it's time, and I'm gonna be ready.
Well, I don't know whether you ever went against Jerick McKinnon when you were with the Bucs, but just wondering about your assessment of him, especially as a pass catcher out of the backfield.
Yeah, man. Jet been working hard all season. I know y'all been seeing that, and it done transferred over to the field. His routes been nasty. He been getting open. He been doing his thing, and I can't wait to see what he gonna bring to the team this year. I know he still got that juice on him.
Hey, Quan, there was a report that you had surgery on your bicep in the offseason. Is that true? And how did that impact your offseason regimen?
Yeah, I had it on right after the Super Bowl, but my bicep wasn't hurting at all. So when I got the surgery, it wasn't hurting. I was just rehabbing it, and it got stronger and stronger. And I just went from there. Just kept grinding, and getting stronger and stronger. And now we're here ready to go.
Hey, Quan, Dre was kind of thrust into the field when you went down with your injury. His learning curve has kind of gone pretty quickly. What have you seen from him this training camp so far?
Everything's just moving slow to him now. He's still a baller. He always going to be a baller, man. He making plays out there on the field at practice. He set the tone with the first pick for the linebacker. So, he's been grinding. I can see it in the film room. He's getting smarter. He's picking up stuff a lot faster. So, he's gonna be himself. He's gonna go out there and do his thing, man. He a dog.
Hey, Quan, it's David Lombardi. I know you guys aren't technically tackling fully live to the ground, but today you got to do a drill with the pad out, and it seemed that guys were having some fun tackling. I saw D'Amico got in there and he got in a tackle himself without pads on. What's it like to play for a guy, in a drill like that it was such a player so recently that seems to be doing all the drills with you guys?
Man, it's lit, man. Miko, man, he probably one of the best coaches I've been around. He keep the room excited. Since he done played, so he already know he let us play our game and just let us be ourselves. And we really appreciate him for that.
Hey, Quan, now that you've been around Fred Warner for as long as you have, what are the things that stand out most to you just in terms of his approach to the game and the way he's always prepared?
Just the way he prepared for the game, and just he's so smart. Y'all might not get to see it, but he's so smart, man. He calls a lot of stuff out. He been dominating. He getting better and better every year. I think it's his third year. He's improved a lot. Especially from last year. That he gonna be way better this year than last year. I can see it. And I just can't wait to get out there with him and get it going and set the tone with him.
All right, thanks, Quan.
All right, y'all stay legendary.
Hey, Fred, Quan Alexander was just in there saying how smart you are and talking about you as a football player. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about what you've learned from him and kind of what you've been seeing from him this training camp with him healthy.
Yeah, Quan. I mean, he's the smart one. I mean, he's a savvy vet. He's been in the game for a long time now. Not only does he bring the juice and you see him make those splash plays, but like he's on his job and he's seen a lot of ball, and so he's been able to anticipate a lot of what the offense is trying to do. And that's why he's such a big part of what we do on defense. When I'm out there with him, this being my second year with him on the field, it's just things are moving a lot faster. With me and him, we're able to talk to each other, and it's kind of an unspoken language out there between me and him.
Fred, when you reach a certain point in training camp and seems like the energy might be hard to come by, or guys are going down with injuries, and as a vocal leader of the team, what's your message to the guys to try to keep that energy up?
Yeah, well, I think that's every training camp. There's always going to be a spot in camp where you're in the midway through it, and you just got to push through those days. But you can't just try and go through the motions. Everybody understands that every rep, every moment counts, and I think that's been the message throughout camp. Is that last year we did make it to the Super Bowl, and it was just those small little moments that had we made one or two plays, we win that game. And so this time around, making sure that we're making that emphasis throughout practices, I think that's what's going to be huge for us.
Fred, you started roughly about the same number of games last year with both Quan and Dre at the weak side spot. Kyle recently said there's no competition, it's Quan. But can you kind of talk to that luxury that you guys have, that you as a middle linebacker, every down player, that you basically have, two guys who can step in and play, one, first down, second down, third down, and play so effectively in pass coverage or run defense?
Yeah, I think our linebacker room is very deep. You talk about Quan and Dre, they both bring so much to this defense as, not only as players, but as leaders to this team. Dre, as a young guy, you could tell, guys are looking at him this season, seeing the way he works, and Quan from day one being the leader that he is. And so I think the biggest thing for our room is continuing to, work every single day to get just 1% better, and making sure that everybody's looking towards us, when it comes to practice, setting the tone and making sure we're on top of our details, and I think I have a huge responsibility in that, and continuing to, be the best version of myself, and the same goes for the rest of the group.
Hey, Fred, it's David. I know no fully live tackling to the ground in practice, but you guys did get to do the drill with the mat today. What was that fun? And was that the first time you had actually gotten to wrap up a guy and tackle him to the ground in a long time?
Yeah, that was good. It's always good to try and feel hitting that ground for the first time. Like you said, we haven't had any live reps yet in practice, trying to make sure we protect the team. But I think my position coach Ryans, he knows the importance as not only a linebacker but just a defensive player of feeling the ground and making tackles. That's just part of it. That's part of this game, and we don't want the first time we're touching the ground to be in Arizona. So, it was good to get out there and feel it out a little bit. Uh-oh. He's on mute.
Hey, hello.
There
Now
it
I'm
is.
on.
Okay, good.
There's been a lot of talk about the pass rush and how much faster it's gotten. You sitting right behind them, talk about how that has changed, how you can see the game, how that affects what you're able to do in the middle behind them.
Yeah, I think everything on defense, our process just speeds up when we have a D-line like we have. In coverage, it's kind of hard to describe, but there's kind of like a timer in my head where if we're playing in a zone coverage, knowing that okay, like as I'm dropping back into coverage, it's like, okay, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, and as soon as that quarterback's starting to hitch, I'm like, well, I got to make sure I'm having my feet in the ground ready to break because I know D-line's going to get home. Same goes with man coverage, knowing that if I can, whoever I'm in man coverage on, if I can get him to stutter 1 or 2 times in his route, that the D-line's going to get home. And so, I think everything works together, rush and coverage, and like you said, I mean, it's a very deep and talented group in that D-line room, and kind of makes our job easy.
Hey, Fred. Solomon was talking yesterday about how, it looks like he'll be able to really stay in the interior where he's the most comfortable, where he played in college. And it looks like, his quickness, he's been able to use that and been pretty effective so far in camp. What have you seen from him? And just maybe, he's a guy that's been banged on quite a bit because he was a number 3 pick and people have these expectations. I don't know. How do you think he's kind of handled that, and what do you see from him this year?
Yeah, I think Saleh, he's continued to just keep his head down and grind. Even through all the stuff that's said outside of this building. I think he's had one of his best camps this training camp. He's flashing inside. He's shown the quickness, shown the strength that we know he's capable of. I'm happy for him. I think he's going to continue to get better. And like I said, he's got to keep his head down, keep working. And that goes for everybody on this team. We're not worried about what anybody's saying outside of the building. We're just worried about getting 1% better each and every day.
Do 2 more for Fred?
It's Fred, it's Cam Inman. I'm outside the building, and I have a question about Demetrius Flanagan fouls. He had an interception today that's probably going to get overlooked by some of the other stuff that happened. But tell me about this guy and what he can bring to the linebacking corps if he makes the roster.
Man, Demetrius Flanagan foul. Where to start? Flan. That's what we call him, Flan, in our room and in the building. But what a journey. He started out as an undrafted guy out of Arizona playing safety last season. Converted to linebacker, brand new position, brand new mindset. He gets a pick in the preseason playing middle field safety. He earns a job on the practice squad, and then he hurts his foot last season. This offseason, I'm seeing him train the hardest he's ever trained. He has the right mindset. He's one of those guys that's first in the building, last one out, and I have nothing but good things to say about him. He's getting everything that he deserves right now. Opportunities are starting to present themselves, and he's ready for it. He's made sure he's putting himself in a position to be prepared for those situations, and now he's been moved to being a Mike backer just because of how well he communicates. I'm just so happy for him, and he's such a great athlete and has that physicality that you want to see from a safety transition to linebacker, and can't say enough good things about Flan. He's great.
Fred, along the same lines of what you were mentioning earlier with the pass rush, with D Ford in the lineup versus out of the lineup, do you notice quarterbacks change in terms of maybe their urgency to get rid of the ball? I mean, the numbers do back up, the sack numbers back up the difference between, Ford being in there and not being in there. I wonder if there's a tangible difference that you notice when he's on the field and when he isn't.
Yeah, I think we're a better defense when D is on the field. His speed off the edge is like none other than, that you don't see that in the NFL, but he's a very huge asset for our defense. Seeing him healthy this training camp has been huge. Him not only rushing the passer, but setting edges, playing in the run game, physical. He's came ready to go, and I know if he can stay healthy all season, we're gonna be good to go.
All right. Thank you, Fred. Thank you, guys.